I notice when I'm doing more work with my hands, creating in partnership with the earth, I feel more fulfilled. I feel more grounded. There's something so profound about tending to a compost, to moving sheep, to seeing where those sheep moved from and seeing the grasses bounce back.
Nothing you do matters unless what you do matters. I'm Amadon DellErba, and this is Get Real or Die Trying. How we doing, tribe? Amadon DellErba here with Get Real or Die Trying podcast. I am in Bandera, Texas. Super excited to be at Sovereignty Ranch. I am sitting down here with Ryland Engelhart. He is one of the producers of the great documentary Kiss the Ground, among many other things he'll share with you that he does here. And he lives on this farm with his sister and their families, his family. They run the bar and restaurant in this beautiful ranch here and just connecting back to nature. And yeah, I've been a huge fan of that film, as I was sharing with you. I saw that in 2020 a couple different times, and it gave me a bit of hope and inspiration. And we've been chatting a little bit and had dinner last night and getting to know each other and just really respect what you guys are doing out here. And so, yeah, tell me a little bit. Let's just start with you as a person. Tell the audience who you are, what you're doing.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So grew up in upstate New York.
That's right, Ithaca. Yep.
Finger Lakes. We grew up on a homestead. Mom and dad were back to the landers, hippies. Dad first read Autobiography of a Yogi.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 18 years old, said there's something there, and then read Be Here Now, and then became a spiritual seeker. And my folks, they bought a little 21-acre homestead outside of Ithaca, New York. And actually twin sisters, my mom and her twin sister married brothers, my dad and his brother Scott, who actually lives here on this farm now and
Love it.
has declared that this will be where he lays to rest.
Wow.
And so sort of, started in this way of community, living in community, creating things with our family, and being close to nature, close to our food supply, and wanting to be, our conception of spirituality growing up was not religious, but it was definitely this idea of oneness, and that God is this totality of everything, and that we as human beings get to be cells in the body of God, and that the invitation in our free will is to be a good cell that serves others, that contributes to the whole. And so and my parents were into, that I was conceived in a VW van on the way to Laguna Beach to meet a predecessor of Maharishi named Charlie Lutz, and they got pregnant on the way to California on that journey, and then moved back home. And we moved to upstate New York when I was 2, and was there for the first 18 years of my life on this homestead, and then moved to Northern California, left home at 18, didn't go to college, was definitely struggled through school as a Waldorf kid, and didn't acclimate to standard education, definitely struggled with the story of being inadequate or stupid or not having the normal cognitive skills that what felt like was the standardized school system when I went to public school at 8th grade.
Yeah.
And that was definitely, I'd say, my dad ask the question oftentimes, what wound are you healing for humanity? as a warm-up question. So just that experience of having a learning disability and feeling stupid, and then trying to pretend or trying to succeed with that sort of burden or wound of. And again, I know that there's this idea of, our wound is our gift, and it's the crack that lets the light come in. And sometimes I can remember that experience, and really, I think that led to, because I struggled with education, formal education, I really relied on the human connection and creating human connections, whether it was with teachers in school or the social dynamics in a classroom or within a group, always being able to connect at the heart level, at the human level. And that would always lead to the ability to thrive and succeed in whatever I was doing. So my journey went from upstate New York to try to become a pro snowboarder in Lake Tahoe. Lived there for a couple years. Then my sister, I don't know if she went into this, but she was in a drug deal, went bad, and led to a homicide. And
no, I didn't hear about that. Sounds exciting.
So that led to me leaving the snowboarding thing and so I moved to Los Angeles to come help her. It was at the time my parents were getting a divorce. My mom left my dad for another woman when I was about 20. And that was, in one sense, tragic, because it seemed like they had such a great relationship and been married for 25 years. But such as life, and such as the being open, gentle, flexible, and willing, and receiving, this is your life lesson. This is what is here for you to receive. It led to a total expansion of our family. My dad then remarried, and that led to him finding a woman named Tirces, little sheepies, which led to the founding of Café Gratitude, which led to sort of me and my brother helping champion and grow that business.
So it was your dad and his new wife who founded, so it wasn't your mom who was part of it. Okay, cool.
That's right. Yeah.
So that, like you said, like their separation kind of created something else special to happen, be born from.
Yeah, and my mom and my biological mom and dad, they had created something called Flax, Flax. It was a women's clothing company.
Okay.
And that was actually, again, a first example of where I saw people take spiritual ideals and put them into practice, into creating a business, into creating a movement around something, and they used the business of selling linen clothing to share these sort of insights of divine understanding. So they had the company was called Engelhart Designs, which our last name is Engelhart, which means angel heart.
Yeah.
Juniper. Shh. And so they had this clothing company, Engelhart Designs. Angels fly because they take themselves lightly, and then on every piece of clothing they had a tag, in addition to just the size of the tag or the size of the clothing, what it was made of, and how to care for it. It would have these tags that would have messages like, I am letting go of wants I no longer need. I am a divine expression of love. All these different sort of beautiful, wise moments of, again, bringing people back to this insight of remembering that they are part of God. They are part of the body of God. They are part of oneness. They are part of this presence of love.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I attribute much of who I am and much of who I'm being to, and I imagine you probably would say the same.
I would, yeah. Yeah.
That
What a blessing to have good parents and great parents who raised us to be expanded, and aware and, different. I think that's one thing that's beautiful is when you have parents who raise their kids to appreciate uniqueness, to be weird, to be different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people in the world raise their kids to fit in, to conform. This is how you got to be. Don't touch the boat. They kind of, and they're not even necessarily always doing it consciously. It's just the conditioning, raising them to fall into line, to not push it too much, So it's cool to not have been raised like that, and to see the difference. From even people I know who are kind of raised more conventionally, whatever that means, to how I was raised, how you were raised. And we just had a conversation with a guy yesterday who was raised totally in an unconventional way, and just like how his mind works now, the way he thinks, because he didn't go to any formal schooling. His parents didn't even homeschooling. They just basically said, figure it out, teach yourself. So he had to live that, not even a homeschool, just figure it out yourself. But it actually created this really radical thinker, And so, yeah, so you're talking about, so your dad remarried, and then they founded Café Gratitude.
Café Gratitude.
Which is cool. I've been there a few times.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, it was early 2000, San Francisco, very radical expression of a business that was raw food, organic food, but it was all based around a transformational board game called the Abounding River board game, which was all about inviting people to have radically different conversations about shifting our awareness from scarcity to abundance, and that our life is a picture of our mind. And when we can, in a moment, shift our attention to gratitude, we are touching the third rail. We can touch that place of fullness, wholeness, and mostly our mind is looking for something wrong or something's missing. And gratitude is this momentary salve, momentary connection to, the G of gratitude I see as the G of God, in that it's, wow, in a moment, we feel fulfilled, we feel full.
Yeah.
And so the whole premise of the restaurant was, yes, it was raw food. Yes, it was this board game, but really the whole premise was a true, innocent, very enthusiastic effort to want people to experience the presence of gratitude.
Yeah, and it took off, didn't it? Got really popular.
It was, massive. We opened 6 restaurants. And
I remember the vibe of when I went to the one in Venice. Must have been 10 years ago or more. Shortly after it opened, more than 10 years ago. But it was, I had heard about the restaurant actually all the way from Arizona, and so I happened to be in California on some business. I gotta check it out, and just, it was cool. I really appreciated the mixture of consciousness and food, because we've separated that in America when there really shouldn't be a separation. It's let food be thy medicine, and the connection around being aware of food and what we put into our bodies has actually been the way we've lived as humans for centuries. We've just lost it in the last century, But just having even, words are powerful things, as so that just seeing the titles of the plates, I am grateful, I am beautiful, I am strong, whatever they may be, I can't remember them all, but stuff like that, affirmations, positive affirmations, and I definitely appreciate it. I thought that was very cool, and your parents are pretty cool for dialing that in. 6 restaurants, you still have those going?
Yeah, so 6 restaurants in the Bay Area, those all closed down. It was, we had really tried something very unique. We tried almost like a socialist model of everyone gets paid the same. We shared tips the same, and on paper and up front, people loved that idea.
It's tough.
It became contentious and hard to manage, and people then came back at us as we did it wrong. And so my parents ended up having 15 lawsuits over 3 years.
Really? Wow.
Right when me and my brother had moved to Southern California. to open the sort of the next chapter of Café Gratitude. We took on 2 new partners, and we opened, over the next, so in 2010, we moved to Southern California from the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the next 15 years, we opened another 8 restaurants in the Southern California area between San Diego, Newport Beach, and Los Angeles. And that was really where Café Gratitude blew up. It became, we went from restaurants in the Bay Area that were doing $3,000 to $4,000 a day to restaurants doing $20,000 to $30,000 a day, to being like the hub of.
I think I went kind of right during your peak. It might have been like 2012, 13.
Yeah.
You guys were just like, you're getting written about everywhere online, and there's just all this buzz around it. And
Yeah, and it was amazing. I think it was a moment in time where we were striking a chord of what people wanted. Health, positivity, community, connection to something bigger than our own myopic egos, especially in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is such a place where people go to make it themselves.
Yeah, it's like
so
headquarters of self-indulgence and self-absorption and a lot of things.
Yeah, and part of that vision, was to go to Los Angeles and bring healing to the belly of the beast. I remember a specific conversation with my brother about, let's go to Los Angeles and we can bring this business model of sacred commerce, which was this idea of how do we awaken love through the transaction, making, you said this earlier, transformation. So how do we make the transaction of business to be transformational?
Yeah.
And that was what we attempted with a lot of sincerity and a lot of gumption and energy and enthusiasm. And it was amazing. And it, like I said earlier, in that we had our moment where we were, on the hill, shining, flying bright and like the talk of the town.
Yeah.
And then now most of those restaurants are all closed.
Yeah.
And, we have 2 restaurants, 2 Café Gratitudes and 1 Gracias Madre still in Los Angeles that are there, but they're definitely sort of on their way out.
Yeah. The world's changing too,
Yeah.
The appetites are changing.
And part of that is, I struggled a lot with it because I mean, maybe you've gotten it already from this interview. I'm definitely a dreamer and a big thinker, and I'm always wanting to champion movements that can change and make the world a better place. And, thank God I've, for whatever reason, had the sort of innocence and the optimism and the feeling that's possible.
Yeah.
And in turn, it's given me permission to, I have this Rumi quote that says, start some big foolish project like Noah. So my website, my email is bigfoolishproject.com.
Oh, I love
that. My special sauce is championing and supporting the growth and the development of big foolish projects that are coming from the heart, coming from service, coming from love, and how to make the world a better place. And so Café Gratitude was one of those things, to be able to bring that to Los Angeles. And
I think it served its purpose. It was a beautiful thing. I think it touched and reframed a lot of people's relationship with food, but even just the consciousness of appreciation, gratitude. And, if you go in there, you're not just going in to like have a binary experience of, putting fuel into my body to survive, just eating. Like when you went in there, you had a different experience, and I think you guys accomplished that, even though like it's sad to see it fade out, like you said, and maybe it's just giving room to rebirth something else, And of course, in the midst of that, of course, you, like I mentioned in the beginning, Kiss the Ground. You founded Kiss the Ground, which was a nonprofit, which then became people know the name now more by the movie, the documentary that you made. Tell me about the process of Kiss the Ground and your kind of aha moment of that concept and creating your nonprofit, and then how it became a movie.
Yeah. So to go forward, my parents, when I was 18 years old, was kind of a little lost, and they moved to San Francisco, and this was right after my snowboarding moment. And
and just to go back real quick, you stopped snowboarding to go help your sister because of something that happened, or
so she was part of a marijuana drug deal that went bad, where 2 people got shot, 1 person died.
Yeah.
And not by her hand, but by the person she was with.
Yeah.
They were being robbed. And so on some level it was self-defense. But ultimately that was a major sort of shakeup in our family.
Definitely.
And it was also at that time my dad was my mom was divorcing my dad. So I needed to show up for my sister. And that actually led to us creating our first business together, which we ended up creating a recording studio called Majestic Studios in North Hollywood, where we built kind of, scrappily and just sort of with a dream and a wish, we created this studio in Los Angeles and ran it for about 3 years, mostly servicing hip hop and R&B industry. And so that then faded with Napster and sort of downloadable music. And then that led me to, going back from LA to joining my folks, my now father and stepmother, and they were birthing Café Gratitude. And then me and my brother, helped them grow that over in the Bay Area for about a 7-year period, and then down to LA for a 10-year period of opening 6 restaurants in the Bay Area, and then another 7 restaurants in LA.
Yeah.
But all that, again, to come back, my folks invited me to a Santa Daime ayahuasca ceremony in the Marin Headlands when I was 19 years old. And I was dealing a lot with not going to college and not feeling lost in what was my direction and feeling what was my purpose, and just struggling with that. Who am I? And in that experience of drinking ayahuasca, it had me have this really, really profound connection with Source, with the Spirit, with Pachamama, whatever name. But this supreme presence of love in that moment was clear that it was an emanation of the spirit of the earth. And it was like an umbilical cord from my heart to her heart. And through that umbilical cord, there was all these communications. And one was showing me, at the time I was living in San Francisco and I was chasing sort of the .com tech boom and feeling like I needed to get into that because that was where money was and young people were, finding significance. And so I saw the vision of being, as a human being, plugged into the machine very early on. This is 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And being very clear that I didn't want to be plugged into the machine, that actually I wanted to be plugged into the mother. I wanted to serve and have my hands be in stewardship to nature and to the earth. And in that communication, that communion moment, was this experience of calling for my service and my devotion, and just weeping on my knees, weeping, kissing the ground, experiencing this sort of quintessential moment of feeling the aliveness of the earth, feeling the aliveness of the red-tailed hawk that's swirling up above, feeling the aliveness of the redwood trees wrapping around us, feeling the aliveness of the fire, feeling the aliveness of, everything simultaneously happening, and feeling that pulse of life. And having that moment, just sort of asking for my devotion, for my care, and being so honored by that calling and that that asking and being so honored to be able to say yes. And that experience then was a decade before Kiss the Ground was conceived. But I oftentimes attribute, that calling of that moment, the spark of conviction and the spark of, because Kiss the Ground came from another moment, not with medicine, but I was in New Zealand and I was watching a guy by the name of Graham Sate speak. I think maybe Molly spoke about him in her interview, but basically he was on a stage speaking about, can human beings sustain life on planet Earth? And it was showing all the different places that human degradation has taken place on the planet. From the climate scenario, from the desertification of soil to, the toxification in our air, and, all these different ways that we've degraded life on planet Earth. And then in a 5-minute synopsis story of him communicating about the power of soil, microorganisms, plants, animals, and humans, and this trophic cascade and this cycle of life, and that there's a way to manage land in a way where you can rebuild soil, rebuild the ability for infiltration of water, which cleans water, which makes plants more nutrient dense and more rich, and infiltrates and recharges aquifers, and if there's carbon in the soil, it's like a carbon filter, and it's cleaning the water, and just this total spiritual epiphany of, oh my God, there's good news.
Yeah.
There's good news, and it's called regeneration.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I, as someone who's been a champion for sustainability, and at the time Café Gratitude was like this big thing in LA, and there was a little bit of spiritual and sort of sustainable arrogance about, we knew veganism was the way, and we were doing everything sustainable in our business, and there was a little bit of sustainable hubris.
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing this revelation that I'm 32 years old and I'm a salesman and an entrepreneur running these organic plant-based restaurants, and I've never had the cognition of this larger cycle of life that I'm a part of, that can pull carbon out of the atmosphere, that it can balance the imbalance through our management, and that all these all this amazing transformation can come from human stewardship. And up until that moment, there wasn't a way in my cognition of human relationship to nature where nature could heal and get better in the future. There just wasn't. I didn't have the map of how that process. And so Kiss the Ground was this, oh my God, like kissing the ground, which comes from Rumi, which says, every day we wake up lonely and afraid. Don't grab a book. Pull down an instrument. Let the beauty you love be all that you do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. And so to kneel and kiss the ground, knowing that we can work with nature to heal our soil, the integrity, the life in the plants, our animals, and ultimately into our bodies and our health. And again, that was the good news, the regeneration. Oh my God, we can regenerate our living planet through our stewardship and care, and there's a process by which we can follow to do that.
Yeah.
And it was like, I can't believe that everyone who I come across who are brilliant scholars and into sustainability hadn't had that synapse connection of that possibility. And so Kiss the Ground was a handshake with one of my childhood friends in my living room, saying, if this is the good news, and we're going to make our lives about awakening this good news on planet Earth, because this gives young people a way to perceive the future with hope and possibility and optimism, and that they could see that their human ingenuity could support how we increase the potential for life on planet Earth.
So you started making that film in like 2012 or something? Or?
Yeah. So the miracle was when we opened that Venice Café Gratitude that you went to. I moved to Venice. I was looking for a place for 6 months, couldn't find a place, and then I moved into a bungalow apartment, or a 2-bedroom bungalow, a little cottage that 2 filmmakers, one by the name of their husband and wife, Josh and Rebecca Takal, and they had a garage, and they had a film studio in that garage, and they were moving to Ojai. And so when they left that place, I was the new tenant.
Nice.
And I was like, wait, you guys are filmmakers? I just started this nonprofit, and it's soil. Do you know about soil? Soil is the most amazing thing. It's like if we can get the soil right, everything else on top of it gets better. And they were like, yeah, it sounds kind of boring. We're into alternative energy. But I continued to pester them and then, found a funder to write $100,000 check. And that was sort of the initial stimulus funding.
Seed money, yeah.
And, we had already named the nonprofit Kiss the Ground, and they had said, wow, that's such a great name. Would you guys be willing to? And we were like, of course, we'd love to. I mean, ultimately, our whole existence as a nonprofit is just to awaken and message and storytell this insight, this awakening that we had, and how to give that to millions of other people. And so that was the beginning of a 7-year process.
Wow.
Of raising incremental funds, meeting farmers and ranchers who were leading the charge in this, and bringing them into our world, setting up interviews, learning from them who else we could talk to, and it was this very organic process. And again, back to, I would say that the most the skill set that allowed me to do that was simply the ability to resolve conflict and be in good relationship with other people over a long period of time, and create a relationship of mutual benefit such that there was, an ability to create a project over a 7-year horizon with hundreds of people being involved, small amounts of funding that led to people feeling like they had a stake in it, and, trying to just manage that web of influence and, influence and how this should go and what's the right thing to do. As we know, the most difficult thing in life is people and managing people. And as someone who's been born into community, you've seen the difficulty of how can we get along and not fight over the almond butter that's mine on the second shelf, and someone opened it and left a blurb on the floor and didn't clean it up.
Sounds like you've experienced it, brother. That's a real life scenario.
Yeah. So that ultimately where that skill set of my early life and being intellectually or learning disabilities that led to my emotional intelligence and my ability to perceive and be in good relationship with people as my superpower, I believe, is the superpower that led me to be able to collaborate over.
So now connections and networks, and you have to foster those relationships. They're like seeds too. Those relationships are like plants. They got to be watered and taken care of. And, it's a lot of people don't, they might even meet someone and really have a connection, but then they don't keep the connection. They don't keep feeding it. They don't keep connecting and communicating, and then it just dies,
Yeah, community is a living ecosystem.
Yeah, it's community. Yeah, it is, and it's constant. You got to be constantly checking in, and and when you truly care about other human beings, like you said, your superpower is that ability to connect. When you care, it's kind of like a natural thing. Some people just don't have the ability, but if it's natural, and you're just naturally always reaching out, connecting, and I haven't talked to that guy in a few weeks. Let me text him. Doesn't matter if he's in Siberia. How you doing, man? You just keep the the connections going, and I can definitely relate to that and the importance of that. And it's important to keep that alive in this world, because it seems like the powers that be want us to be disconnected. Obviously, they want us to be disconnected. They want us to disagree. They want us to fight. They don't want us to have commonality, connection. The more they can faction us, polarize us, keep us separate, not have that, the more they can control us. And that's what their motive is. But yeah, I think Kiss the Ground, that when that came out, I saw it and watched it. Actually, I've seen it multiple times. But it definitely was like, I shared with you before off camera, it was one of the first times I had a bit of hope, And I appreciate how you guys came from that angle of like, wow, we can actually heal the earth by restoring the soil. It all starts with the soil and healing the soil and how important that is. And, there's data behind it. Now, some people may say, oh, that's just kind of this romanticized idea, ideology of this, how can the soil, change this and this much carbon emissions and blah, 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 blah. And there's always going to be like a scientific, data argument back about the proportions of things, But the fact of the matter is it can. And if it's thousands and thousands of small scale farms and people doing this work in those microclimates, things are being healed. And that's what people have to realize is that we want this snap of the finger global like thing that's just going to fix all of these environmental problems. But it actually starts with people in their areas fixing the problems in their areas. I can't do anything about what's going on in Thailand. I can't do anything about it's just a fact. I can't. But I can start healing the earth that I live on, that I steward. I can start healing the environment around me. I can start getting involved with environmental activism around me, with the minds who want to come in where I'm at and mine the earth and destroy and pollute and that, and fight that and educate people why it doesn't work. And that's what people need to do. They need to be inspired to take action in their local communities, but also change their lifestyle, get back to the earth, get back to connection, and support those who are doing it. If people don't want to change their lifestyle, then support those people who are, because and support people like you guys who are out here trying to do it, trying to grow food, are growing food, serving food, rebuilding the soil, having those moments that mean something, that will mean something to your future generations too. That's the important thing. Like, we forget about what we do now, fathers like you and me, not the world, we're doing for our children and their children, Like, we're thinking about legacy. We're thinking about our children not growing up being poisoned by the world. Not even just by the food, but actually literally poisoning their mind by the madness, and the rhetoric. But living a life where they're not eating the seed oils and the microplastics and the Wi-Fi and the poisoning and all the things that in the packaged foods and the cancer-causing things that are in most foods, the corn syrup, which just gives kids diabetes, all of the stuff that's causing ADHD, autism, the vaccines. We're doing what we're doing because we want our kids to not have to even think about it, to be healthy, and their kids to be healthy. And if most people in the world don't think about their grandchildren, their future grandchildren, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying grandparents don't think about their grandchildren, I'm saying their future grandchildren. That's that generational thinking. Indigenous cultures have that. They make decisions around 7 generations. How is this decision going to affect 7 generations, Saying all that, the film Kiss the Ground showed me that restorative process is a generational thing, and it can happen over time. And people can, I'm not naive enough to think, I'm just going to start rebuilding my soil and grow off a couple plants and I'm changing, the global atmosphere, But I know that continuing to do it on a scale and then inspiring and teaching others to do it, and then they do it and they do it and they do it, and people start living more, in touch with the earth, and they live more smart. It's actually smart. That's the thing that we think we're so smart with more technology we introduce into our lives and hacking around this and doing this and growing plants in thin air and we think it's so smart, but it's actually not. Smart is coming back to what's worked for eons with human beings.
Yeah.
Soil, water, food, connection, animals, So it's a learning journey. I could speak like I know, but I'm learning every single day, making mistakes on the farm and figuring out things, or reframing what I thought was the best way to do something, and then through trial and error, holy crap, there's way better ways to do this, and it's really cool though. It's a living off the land, a homestead, a true sustainable ecosystem, community environment. It's just one ongoing experiment.
Yeah.
And the data is just always there. We want, human beings want to have a simple experiment and then it's over and it's finite and here's the data from this experiment and it's done. That's not how a farm works. That's not how a homestead works. It's just constant. You're always just collecting data, always trying to figure out the best way to do things, not to do things, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this said many different times, many different ways, but because when you're farming or homesteading or growing anything, you're stewarding life, the seasons, over, depending on where you are, but, let's say you have one growing season a year, maybe two, essentially your learning process is a whole year. So it's not like you can, you iterate from yesterday to today.
Yeah.
Your time frame is when you planted the seed, to the germination, to the application of fertility, to the man, so there's...
And if you make a mistake, you got to wait till the next season.
That's right.
There's no I'll just redo it. I'll just get the whiteout out and redo it. Nope, you got to wait till the next season. The season's over. That whole corn crop failed. I got to wait till next year to read. It's wild, timelines change for sure, and you become more patient. More in sync with the rise and fall of the sun, more in sync with everything.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I notice when I'm doing more work with my hands, creating in partnership with the earth, I feel more fulfilled.
Yeah.
I feel more grounded, working, in the frenetic of just, phone calls and emails and Zoom meetings. And there's something so profound about tending to a compost, to moving sheep, to seeing where those sheep moved from and seeing the grasses bounce back. And it's such a, it really is and it's hard and it's complex and but at a very deep level, you asked me this, how do I like, this life here? And I love it, really. I mean, we live in bum F, we live way out there, and it's such a beautiful existence to be here, and also with my sister, with my family, with my wife, and 2 kids, and creating something beautiful, and being present to the opportunity to serve, like just this morning, serving this, husband and wife and daughter. They came into the restaurant, and it's like that, those thoughts and those realizations that always continue to cycle back. It's like we forget them and then we remember them, we forget them, and it's like, wow, really the thing that makes us the thing that gives us the most joy and fulfillment is serving from the overflow, serving from, like, all I want you to know is that you are loved and that I'm here to serve you and want to contribute to the betterment of your life.
Yeah.
Like, when we can really get out of the way humbly and just be that degree of giving from the overflow, from the well of our own spring in our hearts, like, I'm grateful for the glimmers that happen, every couple days or every couple months, where it's like, wow, I'm truly present to, wow, that really is all I'm looking for. Really, what I'm looking for is to be a presence of love. And I'm not, because oftentimes I'm mostly trying to get love, right? I want you to like me. I want you to love me. I want you to be enough. Like, I want to tell you things about you that have you think I'm cool, so that, and it's just like, wow, that's all trying to get love.
Yeah.
And then there's these moments of being love where it's just like, wow, really, all I want you to know is I love you.
Yeah.
And I want your life to be wonderful.
Yeah.
And how can I serve you in this moment? And
wouldn't it be amazing if millions and millions of people actually live like that and ask those questions? How do we get there? But so many people don't, you know.
That's the big question.
Even when you get there and realize how beautiful it is to get there, you know, then we still have to stay there in that consciousness. You know, we're still human beings. Like, oh, it's really hard to stay in that level of be love when you're feeling pretty fucking pissed off, and
I know.
So we have to recalibrate, we come back, and it's the complexity of human nature is a very real thing, you know. And I think that what I think is interesting too with like AI right now, you know, it's like the ability to lose our humanness has never been so real. It's really scary, actually. You know what I'm saying? Like,
got goosebumps.
Yeah, it's terrifying, actually. You know, and we all might use it. It might be so powerful. It might be quick and it helps us, and this and that, and boom, it's look at this, and find the information, and
put a little bit of information and turn it into a slick proposal. Wow.
Yeah, it's just like you start feeling, but you know what? You're like losing your humanity, and it's actually kind of making us stupid because it's thinking for us, doing for us, almost feeling for us. People are going to AI to like, how should I feel about this? Are you kidding me? You know, it's like asking a robot, and the thing about AI, it's a collection of all human knowledge already that they've contained, you know, and then it's becoming a hybrid knowledge of human, you know, data and machine learning and machine science and machine knowledge, but yeah, anyways, it is a little scary to think about like how close we are to being disconnected from, you know, our humanness, you know, and we see these movies that came out like 15 years ago, like iRobot or something, you know, and where the world starts getting taken over by robots. And now it's like, you know what, that's not too far-fetched. It's not like a sci-fi thing that could happen, you know, like, holy moly, you know, all the more importance to like be here on the land and like shucking corn, you know, and just like keeping it real, because I don't think a lot of people in the world realize, well, one, the value of connection with the earth, and they also don't realize how close we are to losing. Like, it's a very fine line to completely losing everything. You know, like the collapse, I think, of humanity is very real. It's a very fragile system, and people they don't want to believe it is, you know, because it's terrifying. And they're sitting in their apartment relying on food that's been shipped 2,000 miles that they're going to get at their little grocery store, and turn their lights on and there's power, and turn on their Wi-Fi, and you know, they don't want to believe that all of that with a few different scenarios could drastically change, you know. And I don't want to be like, you know, mayhem and doom and the end of the world type thing, but you know, when you start understanding the fragility of the environment, of the grid, of the food system, which is completely falling apart in this country, and you understand it would only take a matter of 3 days without power, absolute madness in this country. Just 3 days. 72 hours without power in a major city, shutting down, there would be killings in the street. You know, it'd be absolute mayhem. And that's, people are like, oh, that will never happen. That's not a long time, 3 days without power. Like, I mean, just that's not like a far-fetched thing. That could happen, you know? So all the more importance, our safety comes from being connected to the earth. Our safety comes from having our own food, our own water. It's not going to be mayhem here with 3 days without power. There might be a couple little challenges, but it certainly won't be mayhem. But you're in a city for 3 days without power? Absolute mayhem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's part of us being here is definitely being prepared for what's to come. And I hope it's not necessary and it's just a lifestyle choice. Yeah. But it definitely was part of the motivation to step past the comfort of like what we knew and a lifestyle that we had been so accustomed to 25 years in California. Yeah. Urban, you know, Uber Eats accessibility to everything. And
so where how do you feel about like this, where you're at with your political, spiritual, social mindset? You know, you come from, talking to your sister, you know, you come from very liberal California. Yeah. The whole vegan scene, the ultra left liberal, you know, woke culture of California, out to connecting with the earth, you know, having your own farm, eating your own meat, you know, which, you know, the powers that be want to push everything in one direction. So, the homesteaders are Republicans, you know, these people are over here on the left. But like, do you feel like you've had dramatic shifts in your consciousness, or what you identify with in this process of coming to Texas and learning to live off the land, you know? How cool is it to just drink milk from a cow you just milked, or cut that steak from the cow on your land? I mean, I know that experience. I've been there my whole life, but like, what a cool thing, you know? And you're not like in Venice anymore, unloading food from a, you know, refrigerator truck.
Well, we still do that here.
You have to a little bit, you know. You can't.
Azure standard.
Yeah, you can't. You have to a little bit, but you are bringing food in from your farm.
Of course,
you know, and that's a different feeling. Yeah. Has there been something that's like really changed about you that surprised you? Like, I used to think this way, now I don't think this way at all. Like, completely shocked at how different, you know, your mind's gone.
Yeah, I went to Washington D.C. for the first time for the inauguration, and I rented a Airbnb brownstone in D.C. I got there the night before the inauguration. There was a big Trump rally happening, and I was like, I'm going to go check out this MAGA rally and go see what all the fuss is about.
Yeah.
And I ended up walking. My mom calls me from Maui, from her little piece of paradise, her little eco village in Kipahulu, Maui, and off the grid. And she says, "Where are you?" And I say, "I'm in DC. I'm walking down to a Trump rally." And she goes, "Really?" And I say, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well," she had just received a Christmas gift, and I had sent her a deck of Rumi cards, and she pulled a Rumi card for me and read sort of what that card was, and that was sort of her interpretation or messaging for how I should perceive my trip to DC. And it was this beautiful message about walking to my own drum beat and dancing to my own song, and being there to love and to serve and to contribute, and so, you know, this was sort of the backdrop. You know, we shared some laughter, some tears, and I ended up, it was like, I think there was 200,000 people trying to get into the Trump rally. So it wasn't going to get into the stadium. So I ended up just walking into a sports bar, and I have this hat on, nice,
Yeah.
and everyone else has MAGA hats on, and so, you know, I'm just sort of, again, it's a social experiment of how this is all going to be perceived, and for the most part, people are like, "Yeah, I like the hat."
How could they not? Yeah.
Well, you know.
No, I know.
Yeah. So. And this first old elderly couple I walk up to, and we start talking, and they've been waiting in line since 10 a.m. and it's 7 at night, and they didn't get in.
Wow.
And so they just came to the sports bar to and they had their daughter and their son-in-law also in town. They ended up coming and meeting us. I have two other friends who I'm in touch with. They come and meet us. We end up sitting and having conversations for probably 3.5, 4 hours in the sports bar. And again, laughter, tears, talking about transformation, God, healing, you know, telling them about being a vegan and from California, and then being here and being in Texas and now in a cattle ranch, and you know, our revelations that led to that shift in consciousness. And they, you know, we had this moment where the Trump rally started, and they had these two ministers. They were like two young blonde women, and they came and started the ceremony of the rally with this prayer. And it went from a noisy, rowdy sports bar to the reverence of a church service. And you could hear a pin drop, and looking around the room, people were crying, and, you know, the guy across me was crying. You know, he was there with his daughter, and it was just this and again, I never liked Trump. In fact, I was appalled by him. when Bobby Kennedy joined him, I was like, oh, stomach ache. How's this going to go? But ultimately, I found myself in DC. It was a much more diverse crowd than I thought. There was all different kinds of people, Indian, black, white, there celebrating in this theory of change through the Donald Trump lens or direction.
Yeah.
And I was there, really not supporting Trump, supporting Bobby Kennedy wherever he went. And, it was this very sort of moment of me actually experiencing the first moments of even somewhat appreciating being an American.
Yeah.
I actually, on a subtle level, repelled and was a little bit repulsed about America. Not in an overt way, but in subtle ways. I was never a proud American. I never loved this country. I didn't love, I always had, yes, there's some cool ideals, but, all these things. And on that trip, that night, then, the next day I took a scooter with my buddy Matt Wiggins, and we scootered in freezing cold weather all around all the monuments in DC, and seeing this beautiful, regal city, and and kind of being present to the initial cognition of the Constitution and the structure of the government, the House of Representatives, and that it's a government that represents the people, and kind of and then going to the statue of all the soldiers that we lost in Vietnam, and it was an amazing experience of being moved to tears and feeling the presence of, wow, what a beautiful country this is. And yes, there's a troubled past with every country, every place has a troubled past. But wow, what a beautiful experiment. What a beautiful aspirational idea this country is.
Yeah.
And feeling that well up of patriotism, feeling that well up of, being proud of this country and getting to be a part of it and making it better.
Yeah.
And that idea of like, not what is this country going to do for me, but what can I do for this country? And when you came and met me yesterday, I had my MAGA colored God and Country hat on.
Yeah.
That I got this past weekend with this group of conservative environmentalists called ACC, American Conservation Coalition. They had a gathering in Colorado, and so I would say that I've definitely shifted my. I inherited a long-standing identification with liberalism, progressiveness, that was just sort of what was the side of good people, the side of people who cared about other people, the side that wanted to offer a handout and be loving and kind and compassionate. And then through COVID, through the complete tyranny of control and political dissolving of any opposing view on the vaccination, on the it became such a, if you're a good person, this is what you do. And it was just like kind of the moment of, wow, if everything they're saying is off. And I don't know about this other side. I don't really necessarily have a reference point, but this whole theory of change, this approach to trying to get things back into order and making life good, I am totally appalled, totally being repelled. And, that's ultimately led me to be here in Texas. That led me to being at the Capitol for the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. And again, to be there because I was working with Bobby Kennedy. I worked in his campaign. I was part of I was a surrogate for a couple of his events and spoke before him, and I was being an informal liaison to the regenerative agriculture movement and plugging that movement into Maha and facilitating connection there. And so, that just has led me to, through my cultural connection with the, I would say, rural conservative Christian values of this place in Texas, and my shift in paradigm of voting for Donald J. Trump, and because of Bobby Kennedy and supporting Bobby Kennedy and really seeing his leadership as, the most consequential transformation for this country. And I've always had that intuitive nature of like, what are the places of impact that are going to move the needle? And I think I was telling you this last night. There was an event called American Wellness at Aubrey Marcus's place, not too far from here.
Yeah.
And it was a fundraiser, and it was a campaign rally for Bobby Kennedy. And there was a sweat lodge that evening that probably 40 people who were kind of part of, supporting and putting on the event and kind of in his somewhat inner circle. And in that sweat lodge, there became this prayer in my heart that I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have people who championed me and believed in me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we can't believe in ourselves, and then someone believes in it. It's even like this podcast, right? I heard that I started a podcast, and I remember it was from somebody else who was like, yeah, you really, you've got a gift. I think you should, develop that, and it gave it that little kind of foothold to like take that step. And so, in that sweat lodge, I just felt like, wow, to champion another man's success such that they can fulfill their dharma, their calling, their mission, what an opportunity. And so I just sort of, after being insecure and afraid to speak something into the space, feeling of like, what do I have to contribute? Mm-hmm. Just feeling that prayer of, I'm going to champion this man's success, and we can all champion this man's success. And that next day, I ended up putting my resignation in with the nonprofit Kiss the Ground that I had founded and funded and developed over more than a decade. And I was on the board, and I had found a new CEO, but I was still sort of, a prominent figurehead of that organization.
Yeah.
But realized that I couldn't. And again, there's a whole backstory, because when Bobby Kennedy first put up his first campaign video, I took a picture of myself, weeping, crying on the toilet. And I said, a psychic once told me that my purpose in life is to point at things and build movements behind those things. And I'm pointing at Bobby Kennedy for president. And then that next day, I'd gotten a call from a brand partner with Kiss the Ground and our CEO saying, hey, if you're the figurehead of a nonprofit, you can't endorse a candidate. It's, part of against the bylaws, and it's just, culturally not appropriate, fiscally not appropriate. And so I sort of went underground in my support for Bobby Kennedy for about a year, until that event in Austin at Aubrey Marcus's place. And that kind of just confirmed that was my choice, and that was the mission and direction that I was to go. And so I transitioned out of my work with Kiss the Ground. And, that was a little bit rocky, because my supporting Bobby Kennedy, which led to Donald J. Trump, which we were a liberal left funded nonprofit. So funding partners, it just becomes very, you can't say things that your funders don't like you to say. Yeah. And it's just inconvenient, and we won't. And so that's, one of the big challenges in the structure of all life, is that we, in the realm of this podcast, you can't keep it real. Yeah. When your funders say you can't talk about that. Yep. And so
well, good on you for stepping away. That must have been difficult.
It was
something you built, you know.
It was.
You can talk about it now, like relatively easily, but I know I can feel, you know, that and know the experience of building something and then having to walk away from it and to stay true to yourself and to your convictions. And I've had to do that, and I've had a lot of pressure and backlash, and you know, people not understanding my choices or why I believe what I believe, and you just have to stay true. And it kind of sucks while you're doing it, but usually beauty comes from it, you know. But the process of leaving it, I'm sure, was very hard for you.
Yeah, and it was over many different layers and trials and tribulations, and you know, I think one other thing that feels relevant to talk about is cancel culture, and
that's a big one.
And you know, my dear friend Mickey Willis, who I was sharing last night with you, we've known each other almost 20 years, and I asked my wife to marry me, and you know, when he had Elevate Films in his office in Los Angeles, he was hosting an ayahuasca ceremony there, and I kind of had this awakening of that the search was over, and that love was an indwelling presence, and that love and relationship and the devotion to love and the knowing God's love and the sharing in that love is to be discovered and nurtured and cultivated in partnership, in relationship, in marriage. And that became clear in that moment, and that led to my commitment and conviction to my wife, and that we just celebrated our 15-year wedding anniversary.
Nice.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And so that relationship with Mickey has been there for almost 20 years. He's a land partner here in Sovereignty Ranch. He bought 10 of the acres. And during COVID, he was speaking at January 6th on a side stage when, you know, the insurrection, and he was speaking about medical freedom. And the New York Times did a hit piece about him, that he was on the steps of the White House inciting violence, and he was the guy from Plandemic and And in turn, we had a business partnership, brand partnership with the nonprofit at the time, that they were just about to launch the social campaign, and there was this story that Mickey was associated with the nonprofit as an advisor, and he was on the steps of the, you know, January 6th, and you know, everyone had to, you know, denounce their relationship with, you know, that violence and that tyranny and the narrative that was there at that time. And I was just also in a moment where there was a lot of social justice sort of post George Floyd, and I was a white straight male leader in a nonprofit, and there was pressure to make the nonprofit a social justice organization and be focused on, you know, indigenous and Black and social issues, you know, those issues, and not just focus on soil. And so I was just in a total swirl of, you know, I had 2 surgeries on my anus because I had hemorrhoids because I was so stressed out. And so, like, just failing and not knowing what to do and not having the cognition and understanding of how to lead or how to go, and sort of feeling, you know, sort of torn down by the mob mentality of that I was doing it wrong and I needed to be different, and we needed all these different things, and it needed to be. And so, you know, in the fear and terror and confusion of that moment, I ended up canceling my friend Mickey Willis. We basically put up a message on the social media handle of Kiss the Ground saying that, you know, we are cutting ties and that he was involved in this, and I knew it was wrong, and he was going through a really tough moment. He was being canceled by a lot of his other friends, and we had celebrated our birthday together 4 months before. And then just totally out of the blue, I kind of like publicly cut ties. And, you know, that led to him calling me and actually me going and see him in Austin. And basically he just got really real with me and said, you know, this is what I was going through, and I consider you one of my dearest friends. And I felt really betrayed, and you know, I pretended it wasn't a big deal, but it was a huge deal. And the only thing I want for Christmas this year is a public apology. And it sounds surprising at this point, but literally it was like a big gulp in my throat, a big frog in my throat. And he even said, I'm making a third film, called Pandemic 3, and a big part of it is about cancel culture, and you're the closest person to me that canceled me, and not as a threat, but just as a, hey, this is real. And I was pretty shook, and it took me probably 6 months to get up the courage to actually write that public apology. And in turn, it came through another few conversations with him, and one of the ones that I remember was really this idea that on our deathbed we're going to be left with, did we fulfill and follow our first principles? Did we actually, were we a good man? And did we tell the truth? And did we follow our moral compass of what we knew was right?
Yeah.
And I knew that was wrong, and I essentially went against my moral compass. And at the time it was so scary because losing funders and friends and all this, the social pressure was like felt like being underwater 1,000 feet down, and just like the compression of that. But ultimately, the liberation of writing that communication and apologizing and acknowledging that I believe he is a really good man and has great intentions, and put out an amazing film, and it spoke a lot of truth to power, and acknowledging his courage and acknowledging that I stand with him and I know that I did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting to have that conversation again in front of a couple hundred people at an event here, which was all about where he got to tell his side of the story, and everyone was like, fuck that guy, whoever that guy was. And then I got to come up and tell my side of the story.
That's the guy you said, fuck you, dude.
And gave that opportunity too.
That's beautiful that you're able to heal that relationship.
Yeah.
And so because you went through that, when it came around to them wanting you to cancel RFK, so to speak, because that was before.
Yeah.
That was before
That's
your
right.
association with RFK. So you'd already been through a whole process where your conviction, I think, was reified in your mind and heart. And so it must have been helpful to have that process so that you're like, you know what, I can walk away from Kiss the Ground because I'm not going to denounce RFK. I believe in this man. And, I've been through this a little bit now, and I made a mistake. I'm not going to make the same mistake,
Yeah, and, to keep it all the way real, I'm still a pussy.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, there's still total fear, anxiety of, like, speaking the truth and being honest and sharing publicly. And
well, some people have it, they're kind of, I don't want to say they're born with it, because I think there's still a process where they earned it. It could be in past lives, it could be in different ways they earned it. And some people, they have to really learn to have that boldness and to speak out, And when you were talking about Mickey, I could relate, because I've lost friends. I've had a lot of people betray me and turn on me because, I'm someone who can easily be canceled, And so they don't want to associate with me because it's bad for them. So they think it is, Even recently, I had a business partnership fall apart. And these two men, didn't want to associate with me. And I thought they were my friends, I was, it's very painful. And a lot of human beings, again, they go with the current and not against the current, And it does take, a certain willingness to suffer, and just embrace the pain, to make decisions and to just accept it. But what I have found in my life is it always comes back around. So like, you may feel like you said, a little pussy right now still, or you still like don't have this, but it'll come back around, and you'll draw upon that. But I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I said that, Rumi, every day we wake up lonely and afraid. It's amazing how as many courageous actions as I've taken, I'm still, I still wake up lonely and afraid.
The beauty is but then you still are brave. Cause you keep doing it,
Yeah,
because if you didn't wake up feeling any fear and this was easy, then it wouldn't be a challenge for you. But you're still being challenged, so you're still actually exhibiting these beautiful attributes of courage, and being willing to be uncomfortable and trying these things, and that's cool. Good on you. A lot of people, they craft their entire life not to be challenged. You know, and it's even a subconscious thing. Everything they do in their life is to make sure everything's easy, you know, and to wake up and feel lonely and afraid. I think that is the forefront of being a leader, being a change agent in this world, you know, being an activist. It's just always going to be there. At the same time, I know the duality. You feel abundant, beautiful wife, family, children, land, you know, abundance. But then you can still feel like I'm so alone, like, because relatively speaking, maybe even you do have alliances and friends who are on the same path with you, even if they're profound characters like Mickey Willis and other people. But imagine, you know, say you have 10 really close, great friends. That's still 10 people in a world of millions of people who are against you, essentially against you, or against what you're living by, or ignorant of it, not aware of it, you know. And so that feeling, I think, is always there for those of us who live outside the matrix, so to speak, or try to reveal truth in a world that doesn't want truth, you know. And being misrepresented is, it's the modern day crucifixion, you know. It's character assassination. And look at RFK. Oh my gosh, they just, you know, they can't put him on a cross, you know. I mean, they could kill him. They killed Charlie Kirk. People can still be assassinated, but mostly they do character assassination now, and they just cancel you. It's the cancel culture, and that's a sick thing. It's a terrible thing. I'm glad he's making a movie about that. I'm Mickey Willis. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Well, he made Plandemic 3, which had a piece of that.
A piece about it, yeah.
Was about
I was in it, yeah. I haven't seen that one yet, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the last thing to talk about is family.
Yeah. It's everything.
Yeah, and it's also one of the most challenging frontiers in the nature of. We oftentimes talk about, you know, we gather with our family once a year, and, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever holidays, and, you know, we have some great moments, but there's some challenging things, and our parents or our children or our siblings, they push our buttons, they know our weak spots, they know our insecurities, and yeah, I think one of the things that's unique about what we're doing here is we're two families collaborating on this big foolish project.
Yeah.
And especially it's unique because my sister, who's my older sister, she's the sort of queen bee of the project. And so the humility that's required to collaborate with our families, and how to be courageous and be a leader, but also be humble and follow at the right moments.
What a dance of life.
And it's amazing because me and my sister have had a lot of karma dharma experiences of, you know, creating things together, business. It's early in our life, and now we're here in our 40s and doing it again. And, you know, early on in my life, she was always like total controlling, domination, kind of telling everyone how to do. And she's sharp as a whip, and she's smarter, faster, quicker, has a better idea. And so how to navigate that, and to be empowered, and to be a man, and to be a contribution, and to be a leader, well, also navigating, you know, those past tendencies and those dynamics. And yeah, it's it's an interesting thing. Early on doing men's work, I did this thing called the New Warrior Training, and you get in the middle of the circle, and men kind of prompt you to kind of break you down into like where, you know, and you know where your insecurities come from, and where you need to sort of take your power back, get your balls back, find your hairy man. And, you know, I remember kind of this experience of feeling totally denuded by my sister, and totally not seen, and totally dominated, and sort of finding my strength, finding my power, but also, you know, in that moment, having a lot of forgiveness, a lot of compassion, and a lot of appreciation for her and for her walk and for her amazing leadership and for her amazing, visionary capacity. And, these tools that, I got to see represented through my parents going through a divorce. They went through a divorce and separated their assets on a napkin over dinner. And then my mom designed and made the wedding dress for my stepmom to marry my dad.
Wow, beautiful.
And at my wedding, both my mothers, my stepmother and my mother and my father, all were there and participated in the ceremony. As one family, we go on vacations together. We went to the Amazon rainforest together.
Wow.
And so just this, this affirmation that my mom gave me when I was probably 7 years old: be open, flexible, gentle, and willing. To be someone who can accept life is to be open, flexible, gentle, and willing. And so, that has always been a mantra that I've taken on as, since a child. And, in the birthday book, my day is the day of mental insistence. So I am stubborn. I have some stubbornness, and I have some insistence, but I'm also insistent on, continuing to remember this willingness of, to live in the flow of life. We must accept things, and we must, to accept things, we have to be open, gentle, and flexible and willing. And, there's this beautiful distinction between commitment and attachment, and, being committed to an outcome, a direction, but letting go of the attachment of exactly the way that it's going to go and we're going to get there. And, letting go of your idea inside of community when there's, lots of different factors, and we're oftentimes only seeing it from, our perspective. And, can we humble and surrender our way and receive another way as, a better way, and, being willing to commit to sharing our perspective, sharing our view, being empowered. I have another mantra called commit to what you want, surrender and be grateful for whatever is given. So committing to every day that, we have something to contribute, we have something to create, we have something to offer. And if it's not what's needed or wanted, being grateful for life going a different direction, for another idea being the better idea or the idea that we're going to go with. And so, yeah, it's a
Thank you for sharing that. It's deep, beautiful, and just your process with your sister and family, community, and you're growing up in a community and still being very involved in the community and in a leadership position, and having to navigate those dynamics. Even similar things: strong sister, strong mother. The two mothers. I got a mother and a stepmother. And navigating the interpersonal relationships and how we fit in and how we establish ourselves as men, and be decisive and hold space, but also acquiesce, to the feminine, and it's been a lifelong thing. I'm still trying to learn. I'm not saying I got to figure it out, but learning it, and in it, and it's a privilege to be in it, because we're modeling a much better, more evolved, conscious, embodied man for our children. When we commit to learning it. And I've done men's work too, and have men's retreats that I put on and work with men and create a safe space for us men to realize, like, it's okay to not be here, where we want to be in these areas of our life. And let's recognize it, and let's work together and ascend towards it. Let's grow together. Let's realize our weaknesses, our holes in our game, and in our character, in our spiritual life, in our physical life, and let's model better men for our children and for other people, And it's, it gives me hope to see, because I actually know a lot of people who've tried to start communities and just failed. That's actually the truth, the sad truth.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see, even in your small community, your wife's family and your family, and whoever else living out here, I know exactly what you're talking about, like just the intricacies of getting along and dealing with a strong sister, But the fact that you're in it and you're committed, and like you said, staying humble and finding your place and being a part of ushering in this incredible design and this incredible dream, this process is very cool. I applaud you for it. I wish there was thousands of you in the world doing it, That's what we need. But people will see this and hopefully be inspired. It can be done. Even if you have a family member you haven't talked to in years and can't get along with, or a friend even, you still can, you can still do it. It's just a decision. Like, okay, I'm going to heal this relationship. I'm going to work. Like, you just make a decision. I will heal this relationship. And the person has to want to heal too. I think it does take two to tango. But if they do and you're willing to go through it, then you can have it. You can have that healing take place.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think I'll end it here in that, this idea of being love, that love is an indwelling presence. And, we oftentimes think that we need to get something from another for love to be felt. But really, love is a presence that only can be experienced through our perception, through the gates of our own heart. And so even if someone doesn't accept your apology or doesn't receive your love, we can know that we have love for them, that we do love them, and that the gate of love to our own heart is open to that person that we either did something to, that we wronged, or whatever the story may be. The place that gives me hope, and I've oftentimes said this, that what has me be optimistic is that love and regeneration are perennial truths, that the presence of love is at the center of everyone's heart, and regeneration is the design principle of this beautiful, precious, creative earth. And so I don't know what the timeline is where the awakening of that presence of love will be expressed and felt in a collective mass, or the totality of the skin of the earth will be regenerated. But ultimately, in the timeless, infinite space, I know that love is the supreme presence that we all come from and where we're going back to, and that the design of this beautiful earth will heal and regenerate itself with our participation or without. And in turn, it gives, when we have those spiritual cognitions and presence, then it gives us a buoyancy, it gives us an optimism, it gives us a shield for all the noise of the world, because we know where we are going and what we belong to is not in that sort of washing machine of karma, circling. That there is a place that we come from that's that is eternal. And I'm grateful for this conversation. I'm grateful for this remembrance, because I don't always remember it. That is a presence, that is a place that I come from. It is where, with absolute certainty, I know we all come from and where we're all going. And that gives me a sense of peace and a sense of wholeness to have the courage to take big, foolish projects on like this.
Love it, brother. Thank you so much for your eloquent words and your heart and your mind, and appreciate you sitting down and talking with me. Subscribe, like, share, follow. You know the routine. Thanks for listening.